Spoiler alert for...
Spoiler warning for
The
the
Evil
Evil
Dead
Dead franchise, Friday the 13th, Part 5, Candyman and Hellraiser, The Exorcist, Halloween 1979 and 2018. If you haven't seen those movies, don't watch this or watch it and be spoiled.
Hey there guys, and welcome to another episode of Bluestruths.
Yeehaw, my friends, and I'm the co-host today, Adam.
And I'm the host, Blue.
And we're not going to talk about my race or nationality, are we right?
There is not a take where we went in depth in Adam's race and nationality.
It does not matter.
Today we're going to be talking about horror movies, and in particular, we're going to be talking about Evil Dead 2 and Friday the 13th Part 5.
Because those are the movies we watched last night. Yep, Finlay came back to my house and we had a double feature. And I think the interesting thing about both these movies is they both have like a final guy and final girl as characters, but more so the guy. And the guy's like both of them, in both instances, they're the unwilling protagonist, which I find pretty interesting. Yeah.
Can you name a slasher film that has a willing protagonist though? Because I can't imagine anyone wanting to be in that scenario, getting chased by a killer.
Guess off my head, Candyman. Like, this girl, she's like constantly pursuing Candyman in the urban legend. She wants to find out, about the urban legend and whether it's true. Have you watched Candyman?
I haven't seen Candyman. That sounds like a nice shake-up though. What era did that come out in?
90s. It's written by Clive Barker, so same dude as Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, yeah.
It's very Hellraiser-esque, and it stars Tony Todd. You know Tony Todd?
What else has he been in? Remind me.
He's in one scene in Wishmaster. He's also the random middle-aged black dude in the Final Destination movies who's like, the darkness is upon you.
Yeah, alright. I watched Final Destination just recently, so I know who you're talking about.
That's Tony Todd, yeah. He's fucking awesome, dude.
Is he iconic in the horror movie scene?
Yeah, low-key. He's showed
really?
up. He always plays the minor role, and Candyman's the one where he's the main villain, and he's so sexy in it, man. He's hot.
He's hot? Damn.
We should watch Candyman.
Is Candyman meant to be a satire on the horror genre? Because that's kind of the direction that 90s horror movies went in.
No, actually. It's actually, like I said, it's very Hellraiser-esque. It's very kind of dark in its tone.
So it takes itself seriously?
And it's about race politics.
Jesus.
Yeah, it has, and Jordan Peele's actually remaking it. Funny enough, it makes sense that he would remake it.
I was thinking of Jordan Peele because that seems to be his wheelhouse. He does the whole racial horror genre, basically.
Yeah.
With Get Out and Us just recently as well.
Yeah, Candyman is fantastic though. Honestly, the original could be a Jordan Peele film for how fucking artsy it is.
There's more to it than your average 90s slasher horror flick. Sounds like there's a bit more underneath the surface.
Yeah, it's pretty underrated. Compared to Hellraiser is very much praised in the horror genre because of the iconic design of the Cenobites and Pinhead and his performance.
And the general lore, although it's not as well put together in the movies, if you actually read up about the lore, it's pretty interesting.
Oh, the books are pretty good. I've been meaning to get onto reading them, but I'm pretty interested.
I always think about how Stephen King praised Clive Barker as the next master of horror. Because there was a while there where this guy was considered the it guy in horror. People were looking forward to all of his releases. And he's kind of not remembered as that now.
I think Clive Barker is still a very well-respected horror writer, for his books and all that, and I really recommend that you watch Candyman.
Well, what's the plot actually about?
Well, it's been a few weeks since I watched it, but okay, so there are these two university students, not cops, university students, that are doing a thesis on urban legends, and their professor and one of his, she's his thing, the girl is actually married, or she's she's a partner with one of the professors, and he's done a thesis on urban legends with with one of his professors at the one of the lecturers.
Yeah.
I'm not explaining this very well. Sorry. Yeah. So
I get what you mean.
Yeah, her partner has done a thesis, as he's a lecturer with another lecturer, and they both have come to the conclusion that urban legends are just bullshit, and that they're just there to because of. They're made because of to kind of cover up real issues in the world and distract us from what really is there. And it's funny because that's the actual message of the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like it's reiterating the whole race message that was in there.
But anyway, this protagonist, who looks scarily similar to a young Gillian Anderson, she and her dark-skinned friend, and I say that because it does play into it a bit, her kind of colleague, they're out to find this thesis, like, is Candyman real? So they go out to this hood and all these other locations where Candyman has been sighted, and they investigate it, and essentially, I don't want to explain too much of it because I just don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
For you.
Fair enough.
But
we don't care about the viewers, just for me.
for you and for the viewers, it's fantastic and it's super underrated. Cause, like, here's the thing: if you watch Hellraiser, this was a lot of similar themes to Hellraiser, actually, like the whole like cheating aspect and the infidelity.
Yeah,
that's obviously a very important part of Clive Barker's life because it's explored in this.
It's in the majority of his works. It's definitely a running theme.
Yeah,
I think
Hellraiser, I feel like oh, sorry, no, you talk.
I was gonna say Candyman seems like it's better structured in terms of being a story compared to Hellraiser. Like, I love the idea of it starting off almost in a detective kind of way, where it's two people trying to discover something.
Yeah.
And the plot moves along that way. That's much more interesting and intriguing than Hellraiser.
Yeah, where it just kind of happens.
It just kind of happens, exactly. There's no real build-up.
But what I like about it, I love the dynamic in Hellraiser where, like, I haven't seen it in a long time, so apologies. I don't remember the characters' names. But that mother goes up to the attic and she finds the her husband's brother, who she had actually been having an affair with, who had died or gone missing, and she, just tempted by the lust and by the idea of being back together with him, she is leading men up to the attic and killing them for him so that he can absorb their flesh and blood. I think that's fucking awesome. Like, but I will admit that Hellraiser does feel a bit more dated. Like, it doesn't hold up as well.
Well, Hellraiser to me is a hodgepodge of all these really good ideas that don't necessarily connect or fit into a well-structured story as well as they could have. Like, if you point out each individual idea separately, you're like, oh, that's a cool idea, but the way they come together isn't done as well as it could have been. Like, don't you agree? Like, it's not that cohesive of a film for me.
It's been a while. Like, it's literally been a year since I last watched Hellraiser, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it. But I agree, like, it doesn't feel as solid.
It feels like there could have been more there.
Yeah, I feel like, for sure. I feel like the first two movies are the only ones really worth watching anyway, and, like, even them, they're like, I mean, they're good, I think they're pretty good, but Candyman is literally a work of fucking art, man. Like, in the directing, the cinematography, the score, the acting, it's honestly, like, a beautiful movie. I love it. I actually love this movie, and that's why I recommend it.
What's the directing like? How's it directed?
There's this opening shot where it's just like an aerial shot across the city, and like there's this huge orchestral kind of like opera score playing in the background. Like, actually, I think it's like piano, like an organ or something like that, and it's just so beautiful.
So it's quite stylized.
Yeah, it's quite stylized. It has like this almost like churchy kind of undertone. I can't explain it, but like. With like the organ playing and like the aerial shots of all like this these kind of broken down ghetto and industrial areas, like it kind of has this feeling of like, repentance is near, the Lord is coming back to...
You mentioning the organ feels like a callback to classic horror films as well.
Yeah.
Like, if you when you think of Dracula, you think of that's classic score. That's kind of fun in its own way.
I think what I was trying to express, it has this, because here's the thing, Candyman, he's a villain that has died tragically, and he is there to essentially get payback. So, like, the movie always has that tone of, like, I will get revenge. I will, justice will come. It's almost like he's killing all these people, but in a way, he's, like, the savior of the black community, and he's trying to get justice. And it's kind of fucked, like...
I always enjoy when the killer in these movies has a proper motivation.
He has a motivation.
It adds an extra layer there that makes things more interesting. Although, there's an argument to be made with Michael Myers there, where you can't really find concrete motivation in his character.
That's what I like, though. I mean, I think that's the appeal of the character, at least
like
in the first movie. It's, he's literally the embodiment of darkness.
And I love that idea. At first I thought it was a bit vague, and I couldn't get behind it. But now I love the vagueness of it. It kind of adds to the terror of it. It's like existential dread, just this thing that is evil for no clear reason and kills things. It's scary.
And then in the second one, it's like, oh yeah, no, he did it because, like, Laurie's his sister.
Yeah, the more they explain him, the less scary it becomes. That's a general rule of thumb with horror in general. Like, the less that's explained, the scarier things are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what I love about The Exorcist in particular, though, because when I was watching after I'd finished watching the movie, I was talking to my parents about it, because my mum has always had an intrigue in the horror genre, but she's been too scared to actively seek it out herself, especially with something like The Exorcist, because she has that religious background, so it feels all the more real for her, even though we're not a religious family, you know, at the moment. But, just with that movie, she was asking questions about it, and I couldn't answer quite a few about them because it leaves so much to the viewer's imagination, and that just adds to the fear factor of it a whole ton for me. Like, I mean, there is the implication that it's the devil that has possessed the main girl in it, but they never go into too much detail about it. They leave a lot vague.
It's like a demon named Pazuzu?
Pazuzu, yeah. And I love that name.
And we get like flashes of his face throughout the movie, and it's really kind of subtle.
Yeah, but they don't go on. They don't have this massive exposition dump explaining everything that it's about and the whole lore of this thing.
You don't really need it though.
Exactly, you don't need it, and that's just what I love about it. It's a simple premise, and it works really well.
Yeah, Pazuzu's just doing his thing. Like, just leave him alone. Just let it happen.
And I love how the film gradually builds as well. Like, there's all those scenes where you just hear scurrying about in the roof. Like, when watching it actually created a lot of tension for me, because I was like, oh damn, you know, they're actually building suspense quite well.
Yeah, I think the thing I noticed when I watched it with my sister is that it doesn't, you know, well, obviously because it's like one of the first of its kind, it was made in the 70s, it doesn't rely on like modern horror tropes of like, ooh, suspenseful music here, really slow shots here of the characters walking slow, jump scare here, you know, like the movie just, it shows you what is happening, and it lets you know what's happening, but it's just so disturbing. It almost feels like, it feels very grounded, like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, the way I described it to you after I finished watching it was that it's almost like a documentary in a way.
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
it's shot is very matter of fact. It doesn't rely on music, like you said. It doesn't rely on suspenseful over the top music. It just has the shots play out as if it's almost like a real life dramatic scenario you're seeing on screen, and it makes it all the more effective.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Do we want to talk about Evil Dead and Friday the 13th Part 5 since we watched them last night? It's kind of fresh in our minds.
Let's start off with Evil Dead 2.
Now, I will admit, I did fall asleep towards the end there, but I got the most of it. I was very tired.
Him falling asleep isn't a fault of the movie itself, it's just you were tired.
No, that Sam Raimi's directing is so boring.
I don't know how anyone could fall asleep. Out of all the movies to fall asleep to, Evil Dead 2 is one of the trickiest. It's such an over-the-top, loud piece of cinema.
Now, are we going to give viewers context for the movie, or are we going to assume that they know what Evil Dead is, surely?
We're going to assume they know what Evil Dead is.
Okay, yeah, if you don't know what Evil Dead is, go out, watch Evil Dead.
Yeah, honestly, this is a good opportunity for you. You haven't seen Evil Dead yet, and you like the horror genre, check it out.
Yeah, watch the whole trilogy.
All three of them. Classics in the horror genre.
For context, the first one kind of feels like a high-budget student film. The second one is just pure fucking B-movie schlock. And the third one is just, it's not even horror, it's just like slapstick, comedy, action, madness.
How I would describe the third one is almost like a parody of those old school Harry Eisenhower, I think that's how you say it, adventure movies. Like, have you ever seen Jason and the Argonauts?
No.
There's a really famous scene in that where there's this gorgeous stop motion of these skeletons fighting the main protagonist.
Oh, I actually heard, I think they were either inspired from that.
I feel like Evil Dead 3 takes more cues from those classic adventure movies than it does horror.
I think it actually does, because I remember watching the documentary behind it, and I think that was one of Sam Raimi's inspirations.
Yeah, I mean, I none of that's confirmed for me. I never looked into it, but just the fact that it has those stop-motion skeletons, I was like, this has to be a homage.
Oh, for sure it is.
One way or another. That's such an interesting thing for Sam Raimi to do. What a weird angle to tackle after 2 straight horror, just...
Yeah.
And like, movies like Jason the Argonauts appeal to little kids, obviously. They're fun, like, adventure flicks. Yeah. But by virtue of that, I know lots of people that grew up watching Evil Dead 3. Like, as young children. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of harmless, but I still...
I love how the skeletons in that movie, like, they talk like humans and they're like running around screaming, getting blown up. Like, it's actually quite comedic. It's very funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's the appeal of Evil Dead for me. That's why, even though yesterday we came to the conclusion that Evil Dead 1 is still good, I do prefer the sequel just because it ramps up the comedy, and it's hard not to have fun with it.
Oh, the scene where Ash falls back into his chair after, like, I think, like, cutting off his hand. Does he cut off his hand at that point? Is it cut off yet?
I think that is it.
Yeah, he had like this whole battle with his hand. His hand crawls into a little mouse space in the skirting boards of the wall. Then he comes out, gives him the finger, crawls back in. Then Ash falls back into a chair and starts manically laughing. But then everything in the room starts laughing. The moose on the wall starts laughing. The lamp starts laughing. The books on the bookshelf start laughing. Everything swinging open and laughing. And it's like madness personified in a single scene. Like it's amazing.
I might be wrong, but the way I remember it is that the things start laughing, then Ash, the main character's reaction is just to laugh as well.
Yeah, and actually that is true. Sorry, I kind of explained it wrong.
Which to me reiterates why he's an amazing protagonist in the horror genre, because any other protagonist would not react that way. It's so unpredictable, and that's what I love about Ash's character.
Yeah, he just...
You never know what to expect from him.
He's an unwilling protagonist. He doesn't want to be there, but you also get that sense, especially in a bit in the second one, and especially in the third one, and especially it's a theme that's explored in the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV show, is that Ash can't live without the Deadites, and the Deadites can't live without Ash, you know? Like, in the end, even though he doesn't want to be there, and he's constantly being traumatized, he kind of gets off to it a bit, and he kind of enjoys it.
No, you get that. He has this morbid enjoyment from the whole scenario. Like, when he's making those quips, and you get the sense that he's enjoying it.
Yeah, the scene where he first gets his chainsaw arm, and he looks up towards the camera and goes, groovy.
It's incredible.
It's iconic.
And Sam Raimi's direction has to be pointed out as well, because it's so over the top and stylized, and it adds a hell of a lot to these movies.
You know it's a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah, you can just... I love it when you can tell that a movie's done by a certain director just from the stylization. That's when there's something special there. I mean, you've got those POV shots, those incredible shots of something coming towards the house.
Wow, we should do that in maybe like a web series or something. What do you reckon?
Maybe. For context, we made a web series and we tried to redo that shot to mixed success.
Yeah, I'd say that.
We'll say that. You know what I love about those POV shots that I forgot to mention while we were watching it? You know how it constantly shows something coming towards the house? Mm-hmm. You never actually see what that thing is.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I thought the same thing, but you actually see it in the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV show.
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, it's only in one episode. It's never really shown, except for in one episode, they're in a car, or they're in a van or something, and they're going towards this place. And then they're just like, oh shit, look behind us. And you just see this huge, massive cloud of like this kind of grey cloud that's following them.
You see, that kind of ruins it for me. I love the fact that you never see it. It makes it rather unnerving, because you keep on expecting something to appear, because the shot goes right to the house, then nothing happens, and it keeps on going again and again. I thought it was just a way of building suspense in Sam Raimi's very particular style.
I don't think it was ever intended to be shown. I don't think it should have been shown. But they kind of fuck up the continuity, because like later in the show, they show, like, they do the typical POV shot, but then they cut to like them being chased, and there's nothing behind them. And it's like good job keeping fucking continuity, guys.
I mean, look, let's be honest here. Evil Dead isn't known for its brilliant continuity.
Yeah, they say like there is that kind of law that's established in the show where it's like you cut off their head and the Deadite's dead. You know what I mean? Oh, that rhymed. But that's not consistent at all, especially in the movies. Like, I'm pretty sure he cuts off his girlfriend's head, or her head gets chopped off, and then she's like, her headless corpse is dancing around like a ballerina.
Yeah, basically, you get the sense that he wasn't trying to develop this well thought out world, and Sam Raimi was just doing whatever he thought would make a cool, fun, individual scene.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck the rules, I just want to do whatever the hell I want. And that's kind of the appeal of it in its own way.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of someone wanting to watch all three movies in a marathon, it is jarring.
Oh, super jarring.
Because in the first film, I remember you saying you have actors playing certain characters. Then the second film, those actors are there again playing different characters.
Yeah.
And if you want to watch a concise trilogy, it just makes it difficult.
Yeah, and also the fact that, fun fact, they didn't actually have the rights to the first movie, because here's the thing, the only way they could fund the first movie was by selling off the rights to the studio that was producing it. You know, that's the only way they could do it.
It's insane.
So when the second movie came around, they didn't have a rights to a lot of the things in the film. So essentially what they had to do was recap the beginning, make it as if it was a completely different, unrelated movie called Evil Dead 2 that wasn't related to the first Evil Dead, which is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
It's like, how do they get around that? But yeah, so Ash, he, instead of showing up to the cabin with her friend group, he shows up just with his girlfriend, and then within the first 10 minutes they re-establish, and we get to exactly the same point that we were in the first, like, you know, where the first movie ended.
But here's the thing, even though it sort of feels like a reboot in a way, I still feel like you have to watch the first movie beforehand.
Yeah, like, you need it for context, I feel.
Because all the parts where they re-establish everything is incredibly rushed, and if you're watching it for the first time, it would feel like an insane fever dream.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes no sense. Like, I reckon the first act of the movie is probably the weakest part of it. Like, the movie finally gets its legs and starts to get interesting once they've gotten past all that stuff.
I agree 100%.
Like, even watching it yesterday, I was kind of zoning out a bit in the beginning. Once they got past it, I was like, okay, now I'm into it.
Yeah, no, I felt exactly the same.
Once you get to that scene of Bruce Campbell hitting himself in the face and fighting his own hand, yeah. That's when it's that Evil Dead at its finest.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
What do you think is the best in the trilogy?
It's hard to say. I think Army of Darkness. I know it's like kind of unpopular opinion because, like, well, here's the thing. This was talked about in the documentary, but Sam Raimi for this one wanted to go for like a blockbuster, you know, like he was aiming big for this movie. So he wanted it to appeal to as big of an audience as possible. So he went less horror and more action comedy. Yeah. And he put it in medieval times. And there's not really much blood. He wanted to go for a PG-13 rating. So there's little to no blood at all.
And most of the appeal of the first two movies is the gore as well.
Oh, yeah.
For a lot of people. So taking away that is interesting.
In the first Evil Dead, there's this like really interesting effect where like this guy's head or face is decomposing, but it's like I feel like it's like porridge or something that he uses. It's really weird how they've done that visual effect, but like it's very interesting. I've never seen a movie do it like that before.
That's what we were saying while watching
homemade.
it. These are scenes that you would never see in another horror film.
Yeah.
Even just the use of cheap stop motion creates this unique effect where you're watching it and you're thinking, this is unlike anything else, especially in that time period as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In the 80s when it was mainly, well, low budget slasher films that were getting produced.
I mean, wasn't it? It would have been late 80s, wouldn't it be? Or maybe, you know, because I think
this would have been post Halloween and Friday the 13th.
Army of Darkness, I think, was made early in 90s.
Yeah, I believe it was as well.
So I think
that's probably my favorite as well, and it feels almost like a cop-out in our podcast about horror, because like you said, its focus isn't being a horror movie.
Yeah. Slapstick comedy, action adventure, fucking medieval knights and skeletons fighting. It's pretty wild. But it feels true to the series, though.
It does. I mean, even that sequence where there's randomly a bunch of mini Ash people running around the place.
Yeah, and can you imagine it? Like, fucking Bruce Campbell probably was like behind like a screen, redoing those scenes like a million times over.
Having the time of his life. And that's another thing that is a major appeal about the series for me. It's just how much fun it looks like Bruce Campbell is having at all times. He's just camping it. He's camping it up 100%.
I've heard that you know, Sam and Bruce obviously have a very good relationship, and that's why like Bruce always has like a cameo in all his movies, even the Spider-Man movies. Yeah. Or even in Darkman. I don't know if you haven't seen Darkman.
I haven't seen Darkman.
We talked about this yesterday.
I've been interested in watching it though.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell just has a random cameo at the end. He just shows up. Like
his cameos in Spider-Man always confuse me, because they'll have this random shot focusing on this guy who's never appeared in like the movie beforehand at all, and I always got confused about it as a kid.
as someone who's not a fan of Evil Dead, if you saw this guy who kept appearing in every movie,
You'd be confused.
Yeah, you would actually be confused because it's like, what significance does he have to a plot? Like in Spider-Man 4, is he going to come out as the main villain? Like, I've been watching you for years, Peter Parker.
That would be a great development.
That time I stopped you from going into the theater.
Yeah.
That was me.
In Spider-Man 2.
That time when I was the announcer at that wrestling match. It was me.
It was me all along. That's the thing though, because like I said, me and my friend have been rewatching the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and we noticed so many references to his works, and it gets to the point where you're thinking, is this too much? Is he like congratulating himself a bit too much in these movies? Like just so many sequences, like the Green Goblin's hand coming out of the rubber, doing the iconic pose that's seen in the Evil Dead posters. And then in Spider-Man 2, there is a sequence Dr. Cox.
Dr. Coctopus, yeah?
Dr. Coctopus.
He was always my favourite.
Yeah, his personal favourite. No, when Dr. Octopus comes to life for the first time and is shot like a sequence out of Evil Dead, like it uses shadow in a very stylized way, and he goes to pick up a chainsaw in one part, which is an obvious callback. But I don't know, it's fun. It's enjoyable.
Sure.
Can't criticize it too much.
So I feel like we need to talk about the Friday the 13th franchise. Funny thing, I'm actually wearing a shirt right now. My Part 4 shirt. Let's talk about it, because we watched Part 5 last night, and it was so much better than I remember it being. Like, I get so much enjoyment out of that movie.
I always say that Friday the 13th to me is the most consistent out of all of the slasher horror series. Because even though you can't point out a single movie and go, this is the definition of good horror filmmaking, they're all so much fun.
Yeah.
You know what you're in for, and it's never not an enjoyable time for me.
For sure, I feel the same.
And Friday the 13th Part 5, I don't think it's a fan favourite.
Oh, for sure, no. A lot of fans... I mean, it has its own little cult following, I know that for sure, because a lot of fans hate it because they're like, it's not Jason, it's copycat Jason, it's a guy pretending to be Jason. He's not the real Jason. But the actor behind Jason, I'm pretty sure... I might be wrong on this, I hope someone corrects me. But he's the only actor to play... I think, so he played Jason in Part 5, well, copycat Jason.
Yeah.
He played Michael Myers in Part 4, I think. And I think at one point, he may have played Leatherface.
So he's a bit of a horror icon then.
Yeah, low-key. I mean, he's just a dude behind a mask, and he just, he's all in the shitty sequels.
He's clearly got that... He's got that very specific physique they need for those characters.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure, he's played at least 3 villains. I know definitely Jason and Michael Myers... Maybe Leatherface, I'm not too sure. I don't know which Leatherface sequel, because I'm not too familiar with the sequels of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To me, they've never really appealed to me.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably the weakest. If you view it as a series, it's the weakest. Even though the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is a great film.
I disagree. I actually think Hellraiser is the weakest, because, man, they fucking cashed out hard. Because you know what they did with the Hellraiser series after they got to the sequels? So here's the thing. First 2, heavily influenced by the works of Clive Barker, and he had a lot to do with them in the writing process. After that, third Hellraiser, it's actually one of the, what was it? So, it goes through 3 different timelines. So, you got, what was it? Pinhead in the past, Pinhead in present day, following the continuity of the last movie. Where there's this secret organization or something like that.
Yeah, some shit like that.
And then Pinhead in the future on a spaceship. And they literally kill him off in that movie, and it's that's it.
I never understood why they got rid of Pinhead so early. He's very iconic, and when you think of Hellraiser, you think of Pinhead. He's the poster villain for the series. Why get rid of him? Because that's the thing that a lot of people dislike about the sequels, I feel. One of the main things is that Pinhead appears in them not as much as you would like to expect.
Yeah, because I don't know, it's a bit odd. And I remember also in the third one, there's this guy called CD Head, where his gimmick is that he has a bunch of CDs in him, and he throws CDs at people like they're shurikens.
What a great gimmick.
Yeah. Oh man, and it's funny because I used to be a big action figure collector, legitimate problem. Like, it was crack to me, dude. Like,
It was an addiction.
I would buy an action figure a month last year.
And I didn't help the addiction, because you would send me pictures of your action figures like, hey, should I get this 90s Pennywise? And I'd be like, yes, you should get that, Adam.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Listen to me.
Yeah. If you want to put pictures of my collection here, I can send you some and you can shove them in there.
If you turn them into anime GIFs somehow, I'll be sure to throw them in here.
Alright, I'll make sure to do that.
Yeah, find a way somehow. No, let's go back onto Friday the 13th, part 5.
But I need to finish the story. I just remember, like, going online, because I was looking for some Cenobite action figures, and then I remember finding CD Head, and he was like, because the others were like on there for like $90 to $100,
Aww.
or they were super fucking priced up.
Yeah.
And then CD Head was like a solid $30 or something like that. Like,
it just shows how unpopular he is.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest.
Like, can you imagine that? Like, oh hey guys, this is my CD Head action figure. Like, what the fuck? Like, who's gonna brag about that? Like,
no one. You can brag about that.
Okay, if we're gonna go back to Friday the 13th, can I just say I have the very rare Jason X McFarlane Toys action figure. Very proud of it.
How much does it cost you?
Don't ask.
I won't.
It's my most expensive action figure. I will say that.
I love McFarlane Toys. I mean, the early range wasn't as good, but the detail they have now is...
I'd argue the
beautiful.
opposite.
Really?
Oh, I don't really care for the figures now, but like back in the day when they'd have like, you know, their monster movie action figure line, they were pretty cool. Anyway, back onto Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th part 5 to me perfectly encapsulates everything that's good about the Friday the 13th franchise.
It feels so exaggerated. Like I feel like it's the only movie that has all the cliches and all the tropes and all the appropriate archetypes all in one movie.
But also takes the insanity levels and notches it up to 10. I mean, just thinking about that early scene where that fat curly haired guy, what's his name?
Oh, Joey.
I think it might be Joey.
Joey just wanted to have friends. He was offering people his chocolate bar. He was just trying to have a good time.
This character who literally did nothing wrong except offer a man who was using an axe to cut some wood a chocolate bar. And then for no particular reason, he just gets stabbed to death with this axe. And it comes out of nowhere.
Oh.
And it's the perfect way to establish the tone for this movie. It's like, okay, we are in... a fever dream right now. A horror fever dream.
You know what it feels? It feels like a coke-filled
nightmare.
Coke-fueled fucking rage. Like, because here's the thing. Fun fact, this movie was directed by a porn director.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is new levels of exploitive and gritty and kind of, what's that word? Smutty, kind of disgusting.
Yeah. Schlocky. You could
yeah,
use the
it's
word
so schlocky. Like... The kills are like, because here's the thing, a lot of the kills are censored because these, you know, it was the 80s and the MPAA were like censoring the shit out of the Friday the 13th
so many
movies.
Great kills that had been set up, unfortunately lost, and it's devastating.
I mean, in this movie, they feel pretty good. Like, I feel like, you know, you still get some great kills here and there, you know?
The main one I think of is that one where the guy is like, he's on the tree and he's got the belt around his eyes.
Oh, that whole sequence. Like, that sequence...
That made me cringe. And I haven't cringed at a Friday the 13th kill in a long time. So that's how you know it's effective.
That's probably one of the most iconic sequences of the whole franchise. Like, a lot of people, when they think back to their childhood watching Friday the 13th, they think back to this scene, you know? So, just to paint this visual image for the listeners at home, okay? So, 2 hot mental patients... are out in the woods. They set out a picnic blanket. The girl gets butt-ass naked. You see her ass, you see her tits. Her last name is Voorhees, just for context. It's pretty... The actual actress's name is Voorhees. Fun fact. Anyway, they're getting naked. This dude's shirtless. No pants off, but he's shirtless. But this girl, she's fucking butt naked, and they're just making out.
And every camera angle is done so you can see... Everything. It's as exploitative as you can get.
But Mrs. Voorhees was okay with it. She was...
there was consent.
Just so you know, how they auditioned females for the parts in this movie is that they would literally come in and the porn director would go, okay, take your shirt off. And if they did it, he'd consider them for the job. And when Miss Voorhees came in, I can't remember what her first name. I think her name was Deborah Voorhees. I think I might get that wrong. They're like, oh my god, your name is Voorhees. You were a Playboy model. You got the job. Like,
you probably have no acting skill whatsoever, but you are a Playboy model. You've definitely got the job now.
Because I think she did have some background modeling. Once again, I didn't fact check this before we talked, so like this is just going off memory, and I don't have the best memory.
Hey, Bluestruths is known for not fact checking. Don't worry, you're in the right place, buddy. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say it on record. I don't think this is the way you should be auditioning female actresses. This is wrong.
Yeah.
Never follow this.
Yeah.
We're just stating a fact. We don't enjoy this.
Yeah, no. We're not saying it's good stuff. And even the nudity, like, it used to make me very uncomfortable. It's so unnecessary. It's so gratuitous.
It is, and you can tell it's gratuitous. Like, it doesn't really serve any function in the plot.
Yeah, but like, that's the same thing with the kills. But you love the kills. That's what you watch the movie for.
I love those characters that are in the movies for no other reason, just to get killed. Like, you can tell that older woman and her son, you can tell they've just been put in this movie to add to the kill count.
I love them, though. Their dynamic is great. Like, he's just like, that's one of the ugliest mans I've ever seen. Yeah, Ma, you told him he's the ugliest man I've ever seen. And it's just like, shut up. You're no better. Yeah, you're right, Mom. I'm not any better. Can you shut up?
It's an instance of the movie purposely trying to be comedic. And I love when Friday the 13th gets self-aware.
And it's actually funny.
And it's actually funny, too. No, see, that's when Friday the 13th is at its most fun for me, when it's just taking the piss.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
The director and the crew members are just having a good time, and it's so obvious. Like, it translates onto the screen really well.
Yeah. But going back to that scene, so, like, anyway, guy wanders off, I think because he thinks he heard something, then the girl's just kind of sitting there, sunbathing, completely naked in the middle of the fucking forest. And just for context, when they shot this scene, it was supposed to be a close set. They told the actor, they reassured her, you're going to be completely nude, and just so you're not uncomfortable, it's going to be a close set. She came there. There was like 50 crew. It was not a close set. And like people, a lot of people, you know, the male actor said, because, you know, he said a lot of friends came up to him after they saw the movie and said, dude, you're so lucky. How was it, like, you know, filming that sex scene alone with that beautiful naked woman, that model? And he says, not at all. We were out there for several hours. You know, and there were all these men around us just watching us, and we just had to sit there. Like, it wasn't comfortable at all. It was not a pleasant scene to film for either of the actors, by the sounds of it. But anyway, yeah, he wanders off. He comes back. She gets gardening shears to her eyes.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: they put fake blood, like, over her eyes, and the actor said that it was actually stinging. Like, it actually physically stung her eyes and it hurt her eyes.
She just had a terrible experience overall with the making
for
of
this scene,
film.
but it's an effective scene.
It looks good. It looks effective. When I saw it, I was like, wow, it holds up quite well.
Two of the best kills in the movie for sure, yeah. So she gets gardening shears to her eyes. Fucking awesome. Brutal. And then, like, this guy, he, like, backs up into a tree conveniently. And quote-unquote Jason, copycat Jason, is behind this tree. He gets a belt, puts it over this dude's eyes, ties the belt up, and he uses a stick to tighten the belt around his eyes, and essentially
he tightens it.
He tightens it, yeah. And there's a continuity error where at one point he's actually doing it the opposite way. Yeah,
which just goes to show how much effort they're putting into making this film.
I mean, come on, we've done stuff. We know continuity errors. They're gonna happen.
They're gonna happen, but this one is just so obvious.
Yeah.
It's like, could anyone possibly miss that?
It's like, it kind of looks like Jason's like tightening it around his head, and he's like, ah!
And then he just go, on the way, quick. Doesn't that scene the scene is a good, like, little summary of what makes Friday the 13th movies great, in the sense that it has sex and violence.
Yeah.
Those are the two main appeals of that franchise for people.
Pretty much.
It's as schlocky it's as schlocky as it gets.
And those old movies always have that message. Like, I guess they always try to appeal to Christian values, in the sense that Jason, he's a Christian icon. He's a dedicated Christian. He sees these teens doing drugs, having sex, drinking alcohol underage, and he murders them. He says, you know, you're disobeying the Lord, I'm going to take this from you, you know? So, in a way, yeah, Friday the 13th is a Christian narrative.
It is. Jason is basically just Jesus reincarnated. that is the accepted theory by everyone who watches those films.
Yeah, praise the Lord, am I right? But yeah, no, it's...
I always thought that was an interesting message that they had in these slasher films. Like, starting all the way from Halloween, where it's like, the person who doesn't have sex doesn't get killed. Like, why are they trying to spread that message in these movies? Like...
Okay, here's the thing.
What's the point?
With Halloween, it's a bit more nuanced. Because I think... okay, listen. I haven't studied up on Halloween. Like, if you asked me last October when Halloween 2018 was out, yeah, I could tell you detail by detail, like, you know, like fucking film student analyze this shit. But like now, it's kind of vague. But I'll try my best to analyze it. So essentially, I guess the thing is that Laurie Strode is the innocent reserve type. And all her friends around her are drinking, smoking, having sex, and she's kind of feeling a bit left behind and a bit reserved. Like, she's very much in her bubble and she isn't experiencing life kind of properly, if that makes sense. And essentially Michael was this kind of wake-up call for her, I guess, in a sense. And it's kind of so it's not really about her being a virgin. I think it's more so about her innocence being destroyed and being taken away from her, you know?
But every film from then on out took that vague idea and just ran into the ground, basically.
But they kind of took that idea, but they made it so shallow and they kind of simplified it to,
yeah, sex
and drugs are bad, you will die. But like, I don't know, in Halloween, it's the first to do it, it feels like there's a lot more nuance.
What I will say about it, if we're going to talk about the Halloween franchise, I want to make special note of Jamie Lee Curtis. Because even though her acting in that film isn't perfect, she manages to present such a likable character. And she's one of my favourite horror protagonists.
Dude, I disagree. I think her acting is like amazing. That was like her first major role. And I think she did a fantastic job.
She does do a good job.
Like, her towards the end, that sequence where she's screaming. Did you know they did that whole thing out of sequence and she had to like memorize it? Like, because, you know, they were just shooting, because, you know, they did not have time. They had like a fucking... very small budget, so they were like just shooting one after the other, so they like rehearsed it all out of sequence and she had to remember it out of sequence. Like, it's very impressive and she does it so convincingly.
I remember reading online that when she saw maybe like a rough cut, or she saw like a scene of her acting from the film, and she said that it was terrible, and it was John Carpenter who came up to her and reassured her that she did a good job and that this film is fine. Like, he comforted her in a way because she was so just shocked at how she just didn't like the way she did the screaming and stuff, even though those are the best parts of the film, because she sells the terror really well.
I think
she feels vulnerable and you really feel for this character. And she does an even better job in Halloween 2018, when she is by and large the best part of that fucking movie.
She is a badass. Female empowerment, my friend. Oh boy.
She's the most well thought out character in that film. And I wanted more of her. I really did.
What does she say at the end? Like, does she say trick or treat, Michael, or happy Halloween, Michael?
Oh, it's one of those fun 80s era
it's
quips.
So cheesy. Oh.
And I love it so much. No, that's another horror film where it feels like it actually has something to say under the surface, so it adds just a little extra there. There's a bit more meat on those bones.
Yeah, we both went to go see Halloween 2018 on Halloween, and
it was a great experience.
We loved it. Yeah, it was really good. Like, I mean, you can say whatever you want about the movie. It's not perfect, but oh man, like, if people don't know, it was directed by Danny McBride and someone else, and he's obviously a comedian.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just loving this trend in horror where comedians are taking on horror franchises and revitalizing them.
Jordan Peele.
Yeah, Jordan Peele. He's remaking Candyman. He obviously made Get Out and Us recently, and they were both pretty fantastic.
Some of the best horror movies in the past decade.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
and then we have Chris Rock.
Chris Rock is rebooting the Saw franchise. Just got announced a few days ago, I think on Friday. What the fuck? But I think there's a story behind this. I don't know how accurate this article was when I read it, but apparently the CEO, because here's the thing, it was an impromptu meeting. Chris Rock just showed up at Lionsgate Studio, demanded to talk to the CEO, and they talked for a bit. And when they got out of a meeting, the Lionsgate CEO was then notified that wasn't Jordan Peele, that was actually Chris Rock. Because he thought he had just talked to Jordan Peele, and that Jordan Peele was coming to him. The acclaimed comedy/horror director,
Academy Award winner as well.
was
got a lot
wanted to reboot the franchise. But yeah, this man just could not tell the difference between Chris Rock and Jordan Peele, which is just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's embarrassing.
He's like, oh, black comedian? Yeah, that must be that guy who directed that movie. Yeah, he should do Saw.
Yeah, give it to him. I have no expectations whatsoever.
The zebra from Madagascar is rebooting Saw.
Oh god. And it's funny because with that Halloween 2018, it's the forced comedic elements that don't really work as well as I think they could have.
You say that, but I also think it's really funny. Like, I remember watching my second viewing. It's a really funny movie, and I think it's better for it. It adds more personality to the characters and adds more likability. Like that's.
I think when the comedy is there to service the characters, I think it's fine. Like you said, it adds another quirky element. But when the comedy takes away from the actual horror and built up suspense, that's when I think it doesn't work.
Yeah. So, an example of that being when Michael gets revealed to be in that kid's closet. Obviously, spoilers for Halloween 2018, and you know, yeah, this like kid's going like, "Oh snap!"
Yeah.
Oh
he's
hell
making
no!
Jokes, and that's one of my favorite scenes because beforehand they build up this relationship between this kid and his babysitter,
and it's adorable.
It's really sweet, and it's hard not to feel something for these characters in that moment. And then his babysitter gets fucking killed while he's there, and you expect there to be this really big character reaction from this kid. You expect him to be absolutely terrified in this moment, but instead he's just like, oh no.
He's like, oh hell
They
no.
go down the comedic route, and all it does is diffuse the horror and the tragedy of that scene, and it doesn't add anything for it.
Both times my whole cinema was laughing.
Oh, they actually found it funny.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. I think I was just, in that moment, I was too pissed off to even notice what anyone else was doing. Because it was such a perfect opportunity for it.
That's what ruined it for me, because literally the whole cinema was just like laughing.
That ruins the atmosphere even more. Because, yeah, like I said, it was the perfect opportunity for this scene to have a really great ending to it. And
But the good comedic scenes. There is peanut butter on my penis.
Peanut butter on my penis.
Oh, Dad. Listen, so I made you a banh mi's peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the guy's like, what the fuck? I don't want to eat that.
That scene is so strange. It plays out like a separate skit in this car. Like, it's weird. It's like you're watching an SNL skit between these two actors for a few minutes. Like, it takes you out of the film almost. But I enjoy it too much.
It's so funny.
To criticize it. No, it's great. You're right. It adds something nice to the film. It makes it feel a bit different to what you normally expect.
The kills in this feel so real, man.
They're intense.
Oh man, I love what I like about it is that you don't really see most of the kills on screen, but you always see the aftermath, and the aftermath is always like brutal.
I find that
practical
more effective
effects.
in a way.
Yeah, it feels more real. Like you see a woman get killed off screen, or you see a guy get killed off screen, and then in the next scene you see his unhinged jaw.
What I loved about that, though, is because while watching it, because I was so used to censorship in the Friday the 13th movies and the likes, when the death happened off-screen, I just assumed that was because they couldn't show it, because it was too much. But then the director would completely fool me by showing me the aftermath a few seconds later. And it always comes as a shock. Yeah. Just from that context.
You know what I always loved in the last scene, where the dad goes up to the police car outside, and he opens the door, and he sees one of the cops, decapitated heads, completely hollowed out, and with a torch inside it, lighting it up like a jack-o'-lantern.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck, dude? How long did Michael sit there hollowing out this man's head perfectly?
That's the thing that I've kept on saying today. I want to see one of these movies from the perspective of the killer, where you see him piling up all the dead bodies slowly to get that fear factor. You see him hollowing out the heads, whistling.
Dude, you need to watch. I think it's called. I think it's called like The Rise of Leslie Vernon or something like that. I don't know. It's like this. I talked about it with you and Hannah last year, but it's essentially like a horror satire comedy in the same vein as Scream, but it's a mockumentary. where they're essentially following the life of a slasher villain.
That's a great idea.
And like he talks about how he made his backstory and like his workout routine, and like he you meet like his what's the word, his teacher, his kind of father figure, and it's like a Dracula dude, and like he digs him up, and he's like in a coffin, and he wakes up, he's like, oh, hey, what's going on? Like
humanizing the slasher villains is always so funny. Like I think of that Robot Chicken spoof of Friday the 13th, where it's like I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Thursday the 12th.
Oh my god.
And it's like Jason getting all excited and preparing for the day, and he's like in his kitchen whistling to himself, getting all excited about it, and it's adorable, and it's always a good laugh. But when it unintentionally happens, like in the first Halloween movie, where you see Michael driving around in a car, that's when it's problematic, because it just takes away the fear factor. It's like, okay.
Oh my, yeah, no, seriously, like every time I've seen this scene where like Michael drives past Laurie, and he like looks through the window.
Through the window. Mace window.
He looks through the window of his car, looks at her and goes, oh shit, and just keeps driving.
And that shot where the police officer is looking forward, and in the background, it's not even that noticeable. I didn't notice it the first time.
Yeah, I pointed this one out.
In the background, you see Michael just driving past.
Yeah, so like, what's his name? Oh, dude, I forget his name.
Was it the police officer, or was it...
He's like a detective. Oh no, he was actually...
Was it Loomis in the scene? It was Loomis.
Loomis is talking... Who's Michael's psychiatrist, who looks like a cop and like carries around a gun. He's like talking to the chief of police in front of the store that just got robbed for Halloween masks, which, it's kind of inferred that, yeah, obviously Michael robbed it and got his Halloween mask.
Yeah. Pretty, yeah, not very subtle.
Yeah, and they're just like, he's out there somewhere in this neighborhood. And then as he's saying that, just in the background, you see Michael stopping at like the stop sign. Looking like left to right, and he just keeps driving.
The way it's done is the timing for it is so comedic.
Like it's done
ridiculous.
purposely. Like, you just see him out of focus in the background. It's like, oh my god.
It's hard not to find it funny, and it took me out of the moment.
But what I liked in the second one, in Halloween 2018, he does drive, but you don't see him driving.
And that should have been the case from the beginning. Say he drives, it explains how he gets to places so fast. Yeah. That's fine.
I'm fine with that.
Just don't show it, because like you said, it humanizes him too much, and it's just it's too funny to take seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
But with Loomis, we got to say, we always love in slasher films when there's a reoccurring character who appears in multiple movies, because it gives you a protagonist to latch onto, and it makes the experience more rewarding overall.
He's basically in all the sequels up to 6.
Yeah, and he's great. He's a great element of the franchise.
Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away after that one. He actually passed away during the reshoots of the 6th movie.
Yeah, unfortunately, which means that he has a very anticlimactic death, and Loomis deserved more.
Yeah, it's off screen.
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's devastating. But honestly, it's the best part about the Halloween sequels. They're not very good, but that actor always gives it his all and puts so much life into Loomis's character.
Oh, for sure.
And I love it so much.
Oh, and what they did with like the new Loomis, the Numis, as they say.
Did they actually say that?
Yeah, I've heard fans refer to him as Numis. But even in the movie, they say like, "Oh, hey, look, it's the new Loomis." But like, he doesn't. But here's the thing: I find that
They did say that. I forgot about that.
Laurie takes the part of Loomis. She even like says his famous line that he said to her in the first, "Do as I say," or something like that. She says that to her daughter, so her daughter becomes the new Laurie, and she becomes the new Loomis, kind of thing. And it's really cool. I love how in the end, Laurie, her daughter, and her granddaughter are all together and defeat Michael. Like 3 generations of just trauma.
Yeah, I love that element of it as well. Those are the best parts of the movies, where it explores Laurie's trauma, because it's not often with these slasher films that you see the aftermath of how it affects a character, and that's such a brilliant original idea, at least in my mind, and I loved that, and I wish there was more of it. I understand why that wasn't the main focus of the film. I mean, when you have a slasher film, you still gotta have a lot of focus on fun, out-of-place kills, but it was a missed opportunity. You have Jamie Lee Curtis doing this brilliant character portrayal, and I could have had a bit more, but I'm happy with what we got.
Oh, for sure.
She was damn good. And I think it's the reason critics liked this movie. Because when it came out, I was surprised that it was getting critical praise. I didn't expect that at all, and I honestly think the main reason is Jamie Lee Curtis and the focus on trauma. Because critics will look at that and go, okay, there's something else here. You know, something different going on.
Oh, and just go back on Nujabes. Yeah, like, so once they kind of establish that he's not really the new Loomis and he's kind of like a bit nutty, then he just essentially becomes like the antagonist very briefly.
Yeah.
And like, there's a really weird part where like, he kills the chief of police, and then he actually, I don't think in the first one I don't think he was the chief of police. I think it's just in the second one he is. God, my facts not right. He kills him and then drags Michael to the car, puts on his mask.
Yeah.
And you're thinking like, what is happening here? Like, you know, and it like that whole sequence just pisses me off. And
it pisses me off too. It felt really out of place.
It feels really forced because they're just doing it so Michael can be taken to Laurie's house for the final confrontation, like, because he was nowhere near there.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a natural plot point at all. It feels incredibly just like, thrown in there.
But Nujabes is literally just doing it so he can get them together. Like, he's like, yes, he must, you know, like, he really wants her to talk, for him to talk for some reason.
No, it's not an effective scene at all. I do love how there is that general audience subversion, though, with who you expect the new Loomis to be, and it turning out to be Laurie. That is just a nice part of the story anyway. I quite enjoy that part of it. And I liked the humour in homaging the original film. Like that scene where... is it Laurie's granddaughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, where Laurie's granddaughter is in school and she looks out the window and she sees Laurie and she looks back and she's gone.
Actually, no, she doesn't look back and she's gone, but like, she looks out the window and she's in the exact place that Michael was, like, 40 years ago.
Yeah. And that was just, it was homaging a scene to comedic effect, but I thought that was a lot of fun.
I think what you're thinking about is the end, where Michael pushes Laurie off the balcony, and then he looks down, and she's in the exact same position that he was in the first movie, when he got knocked off the balcony. And then he hears a noise from downstairs. He looks back. Turns away, turns back, and she's gone.
Yeah,
and then it plays like the little sting, like the. Dun!
That's another example of it. And it felt so special being in the cinema and getting those jokes. It was like a little treat for people who are fans of the original.
Yeah,
and I loved that. It felt almost exclusive in a way, and it was just funny. It was just nice and funny. A bit of fan service, but subtle enough to the point where it's not in your face. You know.
For sure. Dude, this is almost an hour.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up here.
Quickly, what are the final thoughts? What do we have to say? We really could not stay on a single topic. We were just going all over the place.
Which is fine. I mean, that's kind of how these always turn out.
I hope I didn't, stumble too much.
Honestly, you'll be fine. One of the main reasons I wanted to do this is because I was sick of doing scripted stuff. I just wanted to do something that felt natural and raw.
Yeah.
And stumbling is just a part of that experience. That's my excuse. Oh, just as like a final note before we end this, watch every film we've mentioned.
Yeah.
Even if we've mentioned it briefly, just watch them all. They're all great.
You should actually put a thing at the start, kind of letting people know that there will be spoilers for these movies.
Yeah, I don't do that often.
You should do that.
Sometimes in brackets I'll put spoilers in the title. I might do that with this one as well.
But I think that always enhances a podcast for me. Meta. I'm getting a bit meta here. Always enhances the podcast for me where I know where I watch the movie that they talk about before I watch the podcast, because then it kind of adds to it. Because the movie's fresh in my mind, and they start telling me details about behind the scenes and other things. I'm particularly talking about the Dead Meat podcast, which I highly recommend. It is amazing. They did.
We're not allowed to sponsor other podcasts. Just watch more Bluestruths.
But they did that podcast on trans representation and horror, and I recommend everyone to listen to it because it's fantastic.
No, that does sound interesting. I'll check that out as well. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this especially rambly episode of Bluestruths.
Wait, can I just say before we go, okay, kill, fuck, marry.
Ooh.
Freddy, Jason, no, Freddy, Leatherface, Jason.
Okay, that is a difficult one because they're all gonna inevitably murder me in horrific fashion.
Yeah, sure.
I think Freddy has the most personality. None of them are lookers. Freddy has my favorite personality, so I'm gonna marry him.
I'm gonna marry Freddy too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna marry Freddy. What were the other options? Jason and
and Leatherface. Sorry, not too much variation there. Maybe make it Leatherface and Chucky. Because, like Leatherface, he's kind of a sympathetic villain in the sense that he's not really the villain. Like, he's kind of getting, like, bullied in the first one by his family and, like, forced into these situations, and he just doesn't understand things. He has, like, the mind of a child. Well, Jason is also a sympathetic character, but less so.
Yeah, he is. That's what I really like about his character. So what are the other options? Chucky and Jason.
Yeah. No. Chucky and Leatherface. That's what I've changed it to.
Chucky and Leatherface. Okay, there we go. I think Leatherface... Okay.
Because if you're fucking him, you're fucking a child. But if you fuck Chucky, then you're fucking a doll.
At least it's not a real person, though. I can have that disconnect.
But, like, he's a loudmouth, shit-talking doll.
You're not giving me many options here, Adam.
And, like, he has the soul of, like a criminal. And, like, he's...
I'm gonna fuck the shit out of Chucky. And you've convinced me.
And if you see to Chucky, he actually produces semen.
Well, that's perfect.
He has a son.
That is perfect. There we go. You've sold me. I'm gonna fuck Chucky. That is on record.
And you're gonna kill Leatherface.
And I'm gonna kill Leatherface. Honestly, he killed a lot of people. I'm a fucking hero. Okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably do the same. Okay, well, now you do one now. Cut that out.
Who can I pick for you? Should I do like, okay, Pinhead?
Mm-hmm.
He would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Quite a kinky fellow.
Mm-hmm.
As we know. So we've got Pinhead. Should I go for more?
Oh, dude, I got a good one.
Alright. I can't think of anything on the top of my head. You go.
Okay. Okay. The sexiest horror villains, alright? Freddy, Patrick Bateman, and Candyman. And just for context, I'll get up a picture of Candyman for you.
Yeah, you have mentioned that he's sexy quite a few times throughout this. I'm glad this is such a visual thing for an audio podcast.
Yeah.
Alright, we'll describe him to you.
Look at how sexy Tony Todd is as Candyman. So yeah, him, Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, Christian Bale looking fit as fuck.
Yeah, Christian Bale's great. He's very attractive.
And Freddy, a sex icon.
Well, go for it. I mean, you've given them to yourselves. Now you gotta... These are much easier than what I had. I'm gonna put it out there.
Yeah.
But you go. You tell us your answers.
Oh, dude, it's so hard. It's so hard. Alright. Well...
Thinking of the questions or a different element is hard?
No, the answer to those questions. Like, I think... Okay. I'm gonna have to fuck Candyman. I'm gonna kill Patrick Bateman, because that dude's the psycho.
He is a psycho. Most of these people are psychos. There's a reoccurring theme here.
Actually, I don't know. And if you've seen the sex scenes in American Psycho, they're pretty fun. I love that movie, by the way.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Now that you said American Psycho, I want to add Alex from Clockwork Orange in there.
Oh, dude, I haven't seen Clockwork Orange.
I've got to show you the scene, the rain scene.
We should just watch it.
Oh,
I can watch it in my own time.
It's 3 hours long and it's very arty.
Oh,
and you've got to be in the right mindset. Like, it's a beautiful example of filmmaking, but it's not something you watch to have a good time with a friend.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Maybe in my own time I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, recommend it. It's great. I've got a massive poster of it in my room. It's like my prized possession.
But yeah, no. Definitely gotta marry Candyman. Actually, no. Yeah, marry Freddy, fuck Candyman, kill Patrick Bateman because he's an American Psycho.
Brilliant. I'm glad that we did this. We should have done this earlier.
Yeah, this could be a whole nother podcast.
This could be a whole nother podcast.
Kill, fuck, marry horror villains.
Kill, fuck, marry pop culture characters. We could do like a whole smorgasbord.
Or we could do like a tier list, or like a thing where we pit a bunch of horror villains up against each other.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, and we see like we would talk about the situations and like who would win and what.
Maybe we should do that. We should do a more fun, laid back podcast.
But we actually need to like plan that one.
We would have to plan that one, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's that's a podcast for another time, I guess. I said the word smorgasbord before. I don't know if that worked, but I love that word, smorgasbord. That's brilliant. Tell us your favourite words in the comments below.
Yeah. If you've gotten this far, please tell us what is your favourite word in the dictionary.
My friends always tell me they watch this podcast, right? And sometimes I think they just say it to be nice, which is lovely, might I add. But okay, here we go. All right. if you're one of my friends and you've seen this podcast in person, say Adam is a poo to my face. That's the proof I need.
Yeah.
If you got this far. Alright, brilliant. Well, yep, that's the end of episode 7, I think it is.
And cue the outro theme song. Bap bap skip bap bap skip it bap bap skip bap bap.
Skip it. We hope you enjoyed watching and enjoy.
Big Willie.
Enjoy.
A big Willie.
Enjoy.
A small Willie.
Enjoy. Bye.
Meh.
senpai, 我是要你，我你讲。